Oh, hello there, and welcome to Phil Talking D20. So today's video is a dive into the secrets of magic. What this actually is a look at the new playtest classes that are currently released for everyone to dive into and have a good poke about with, which are the Magus and the Summoner. I'll pop a link in the description below to the Paizo blog post where you can download the free playtest PDF of these two new classes, so you can also get stuck in and help provide feedback. Because I think that's one of my favourite things about Pathfinder 2, and generally Pathfinder and Paizo's approach to gaming in general, and that is that they go, here's some ideas, see if they work, and then they refine and tinker their concepts and re-release it as a finished, refined, player feedback based system, which is brilliant. They did that with Pathfinder 1 when they released that many moons ago. They did it with Pathfinder 2. I took part in the playtest and thought it was a thoroughly good idea, and they did it with the Advanced Players Guide classes, and now they're doing it again with the new Secrets of Magic book. I don't know if they're going to do any more playtests for this new book, but obviously these two new classes are here for everyone to get stuck into. So today's video I'm going to look at the Magus. It's quite a cool class. If you're familiar with the concept of a spell sword, that's essentially what it is. You're someone that can combine spells and combat, and that's joy spiffing, and it's quite cool. The general concept is obviously it's a full class across 20 levels. The initial kind of, I suppose, key points are your hit points. You get 8 plus your con modifier every level, your ability booster to your strength or your dex in terms of the key ability of the class, which again kind of, I suppose, shows you that they're going for, I suppose, a more combat optimized caster as opposed to, well, a more magic optimized caster. Trained in perception, expert in fortitude, trained in reflex, experts in will, trained in arcana, a number of skills equal to 2 plus your intelligence modifier additionally, trained in simple and martial, trained in unarmed, light, medium armors and unarmored defenses, and trained in spell attacks and arcane spell DCs. So, what makes this class unique? Well, effectively, like every level 1 class, you get ancestry and background, initial proficiencies, arcane spell casting, battle spells, that's new, striking spell, that's new, and then you get a Magus synthesis at level 1, and that's like your class pathway, like you get with many classes, that I suppose like refine and focus the core of the play style that you want to kind of go for. So when I was first reading this, there were a couple of things that made me kind of go, oh, that's a bit rubbish. And then what happened, I read a bit further and I was like, oh, it makes sense. So I'm going to kind of touch on those. My first, I think, point of, from feedback perspectives, is the difference between hit points between Summoner and Magus. 8 plus con modifier for Magus, 10 plus con modifier for Summoner. I thought that would be the other way around, not going to lie, because the Magus is supposed to be a kind of a combatant, and I didn't think of the Summoner as being the combatant, but, you know, I suppose what maybe they're looking at that from the perspective of with the Summoner, which will be another video, maybe they're thinking that because it's like a dual life force thing, because you are linked to another entity called an Eidolon with the Summoner, that maybe that's buffing your hit points. So I don't think it's a big deal at all, but it was just one of those things where I was like, oh. Now, a quick look at the flavour advice. Let's have a quick look. So, during combat encounters, I love these, I think these are really useful. You place spells into your weapon or body to hit enemies with a powerful strike and spell combination. Because your spells per day are limited, you rely on trusty, carefully chosen cantrips. Even without spells, you can hold your own in battle. Because obviously, you have access to all the martial weapons and all the goodness that then ensues. During social encounters, your education and breadth of experience make you knowledgeable about many subjects. I'm not entirely convinced about that statement because you get Arcana, and then 2 plus your intelligence modifier number of additional skills. So you don't strike me as particularly educated unless you've got a really high intelligence score, at which point that statement would apply to anyone with a high intelligence score. So, but anyway, again, it's playtest. This is beta. This isn't the finished article. So again, this is something they're going to be looking at and working through with feedback. While exploring, your flexibility means you might look for magical auras, remain on guard, or even sneak around. Your ability to fill different niches means that your particular role often depends on the talents of other members of your group. It's a flexible class. If I'm honest with you, all the Pathfinder 2 classes are flexible. You can do a lot with them depending on what you pick and what you choose. In downtime, you split your time between magical pursuits, like researching spells and crafting items, and martial practice, such as retraining combat abilities to learn new techniques. You might continue to refine your spells and item selections to improve your personal style, or prepare battle plans and spell lists for a variety of situations. Socialise with both scholars of magic and veteran combatants alike, and otherwise learn from people of different backgrounds. Overreach with ambitious plans that pull you into too many directions at once. I think that's actually probably quite accurate when you think about someone that is trying to master the incredibly complex mystical arts of magic, and someone who's also trying to find the time to kind of study and master martial techniques. You master one or the other. So I think being a bit of a jack of all trades means you're never going to be the best caster and you're never going to be the best fighter, but you're going to be quite good at both. And you're just going to have holes in, I suppose, certain areas that you're going to have to try and fill with blind luck and good role play. But again, I think it's a really cool concept. I've always liked the idea of a spell sword. In 3.5 D&D, there was a spell sword, and you were a combat caster who could wear armor, reduce the arcane failure spell chances of armor, use melee weapons and fire off spells. That was a prestige class. And this has that flavour. Again, Magus comes out of Pathfinder 1. That's where this is kind of building from as a concept. Now, the juicy stuff kicks in with the kind of the battle magic and all that kind of stuff, which we're going to get to. Spells per day are limited, but not... Well, they are limited, let's be honest. Cantrips is normal, 5 cantrips at level 1 through to level 20. I'm pretty sure in the feats you can expand that. I'm pretty sure I saw expanded cantrip and all that kind of stuff that adds a couple more, all that kind of thing. So you've got some staple kind of magic user feats in the class, and like a handful of fighter feats and some other unique feats that make the class kind of defined. However, at level 1, you've only got 1 first level spell. And by the time you get to 2nd, that's only 2 first level spells. And then you get to 3rd level, and you've got 2 first level spells and 1 second level spell. But by the time you get to 20th level, that tree is still not going higher than 2. So you will get to, well, technically you'll get to 9th level spells by 17th level, but you'll only have 2. Like I said, you're never going to be a wizard. You're not a wizard, Harry. You're a magus. So you're never going to have the time if you're also getting to do all the other juicy stuff with combat feats and the like. You're just not going to get to be a super powerful wizard. If you want to be a super powerful wizard, play a wizard. If you want to be someone who can do spells and combat, magus. If you just want to be a combat monster, any of the combat classes, fighter, barbar, champion, whatever you want. Now, they heighten spells just like the magic users, cantrips and everything like that works just like that. They have a spell book where they can record and keep their kind of their spells and essentially, have that tome that they can then add to, so that they can have a deeper breadth of spells that they can add to their spells per day. In terms of when they're choosing them, they obviously can't get more than the table's telling you, but you can still have a breadth of flexibility that you can change up as you prepare. Now, battle spells. This is that first unique feature that they get. You learn the Magus Potency battle spell. See page 11. We will shortly. These are focus spells. So again, on top of the spells per day, you've got these rechargeable 10-minute kind of regenerative spell point pools. And again, there are a selection of feats that add new focus spells into your pool that increase your pool size and again give you more spell casting capability if you choose to invest in them with feats. But at the start of level 1, you get Magus Potency as a battle spell. Let's have a quick look at that as we're talking about it before we jump into the next bit. Let's just whiz down to page 11. That's page 7, not 11. But it rhymed, so we went with it. Now, page 11. Here we are. No, that's the 4th level 1, Runic Impression. Haste the Battle, Magus Potency. It's a focus spell level 1. It's 1 semantic action to cast. Its duration is 1 minute, has a range of touch. Targets you or one weapon you are wielding. Now, the target, aka you, gains the benefit of a +1 weapon potency room, granting +1 on attack rolls with the target weapon of your your unarmed attacks. If you target yourself, if you cast on a weapon, this spell ends if you cease holding the weapon. Now, at 3rd level, this will heighten to become a +1 striking rune. Who doesn't want a free striking rune? Which is the extra damage dice. And at 4th level, it heightens again, and they become +2 striking weapons. So you're already able with this focus spell to just always be able to grab any weapon and or use your hands and feet and head and whatever kind of kung fu you want to use to get instant access to free, powerful magic weapons, which is brilliant because if you're in a situation where you've been captured and all your weapons have been taken away from you, and you grab a dagger off the guard, through the bars, and then use your second action to cast Magus Potency with a focus point, which are 10 a penny, because literally, even if you'd used them all, as long as you wait 10 minutes, you can get them back, boom, and then just shank him through the bars at a high level, you can still have a dagger that does 3d4 damage plus your strength modifier, which is a damn sight better than 1d4. There it is, isn't it? You're never not reliant on an item, which is really important because it's quite easy to lose items. It's quite easy to have them taken away from you. It's quite easy to be disarmed. There's all these threats to the weapon that you've invested a lot of money in your hand. And you're like, haha, no one will ever beat me. I've got my +3 trusty. Oh, it's gone. You're effectively combat naked. With this class, you instantly have this insulation built in at level 1. You're never combat naked. That's not a real phrase, by the way. I just made that up. So don't go, oh, that's a strange thesis, the combat naked thesis. I'm not affinity with. That is a really cool little cheeky level 1 spell, focus spell. And like I said, that's going to grow and level up and get powerfuler, which is brilliant. So that is a really nice flavour of what they can start doing at level 1 and obviously grow through with levels. Now, the other unique thing they've got is the striking spell ability. Now, this is a once per round free action. So it's not burning your action economy, you're just throwing it into the mix, which is cool because I was a bit worried about this, how they were going to kind of employ it, because if it was costing you an action, it would be quite harsh on the action economy. So basically what happens is, well, to read it, you drastically alter a spell to combine it with a martial attack. If the next action you choose is to cast a spell that can target one creature or object instead of casting it normally, you place its magic into a melee weapon you're wielding or into your body for the purposes of unarmed attacks. If you hit with a melee strike using the receptacle, it's a slightly grim word, isn't it? Although there is some amusing connotations that you can put on that. For the spell, The spell, if you hit with the melee strike using the receptacle for the spell is discharged, affecting only the target you hit. The spell still requires its normal spell attack roll or saving throw, but you don't increase your multi-attack penalty until after attempting to discharge the spell. So this is a bit like that power attack mechanic or those kind of multi-attack mechanics where you get to do these 2 attack rolls, one based on your spell, one based on your melee, but you're not then hitting a -5 penalty on the second roll. They're both at full base attack. And then after that, you then count on your next action that's an attack as being on your third attack, which is quite nice. So I think that's definitely a good, solid kind of balance for being able to reliably use the thing that you're supposed to be using. So that's a good touch. There's a couple of things in there that kind of make you kind of go, oh, that's a bit, can we not do this? What happens with striking spell is it's kind of optimized by the path you take when they were talking about this Magus synthesis. So when you read the full text of the spell strike, it sounds like it's a bit clunky and not very rewarding to use, because it sounds like it's a bit of it sounds a bit limiting. But the reason for that is because they've built in these Magus syntheses. Magus syntheses. God, that's an annoying word, isn't it? That essentially optimize a combat style. So there's Shooting Star, the famous TV comedy show. You turn into Vic Reeves or Bob Mortimer, and you call the dove from above. Most of you will probably have no idea what I'm talking about. It's a comedy kind of quiz show from the early 2000s. Check it out. It's solid gold. That's not what it is at all. Shooting Star basically is enabling you to bypass the normal limitation of not being able to use ranged spell attacks as part of your kind of striking magic ability. And that is effectively enabling you to use bows, throwing axes, whatever it might be, as long as they're within the increment of the spell. So you can't take a 30 feet spell, put it in a longbow, and fire it 120 feet, at least not to start with. There's a possibility, because I haven't read right into the full feat trees, that will probably be something they expand upon, and I'd be surprised if they didn't. This is more a look at the kind of what you're initially getting into. So that's quite a cool one, Shooting Star, essentially being able to kind of pump out a bit of ranged spell damage is combined with some kind of ranged weapon. Then you've got Slide Casting. Not a fan of the name. But effectively, it's quite a cool ability. And what it's doing is when you're using Striking Spell and casting it, you get a bonus to your speed. Well, I say bonuses, but you get free movement, to be precise. You can stride or step as a free action as part of your strike with your, combat magic kind of spell strike ability. It grants you an extra move action as part of that kind of thing. You capture a portion of your spell's magic to forcefully propel yourself while storing a spell. After you use Striking Spell and start casting a spell that takes one action or more to cast, you can stride or step as part of the cast a spell activity, and it doesn't disrupt it. And you can do it in any order. So that's quite a nice one. Now, there's a lock on this, like there is with the first kind of Shooting Star one, which you can't exceed the spell's range limit. You can stride or step only if you're storing your spell in a one-handed weapon or your body, and only if you have your other hand free. And I assume that's because there's that kind of element of like channeled power that you are kind of holding on to maybe in your free hand. So that's why. But again, having that extra movement whilst casting a spell. It's a free action, and movement can be the difference between someone being able to close in or stay in combat with you and make 3 attacks and really put the hurt on you, or you getting to someone and booshing them with a power spell and doing the damage that you needed to because you were running short on action economy and you couldn't have got there and do all the other things that you wanted to do to make the spell happen. So yeah, never underestimate the power of a free action, especially when it's movement. And then sustaining steel is effectively when you're using two-handed weaponry, you gain temporary hit points when you're using the kind of the battle kind of spell, kind of striking spell ability. If you use striking spell to store a spell in a two-handed weapon, when you finish casting the spell, you gain temporary hit points equal to either twice the spell's level if you used a spell slot, or its level if your spell didn't use a spell slot, such as a cantrip or focus spell. These temporary hit points last until the end of your next turn. Now, you can do the spell strike once a round. So although they're saying the temporary hit points you've gained will deplete at the end of your next round, that's because you'll be replacing them as long as you're using spell, the striking spell action every round. You're going to maintain that little bubble of extra hit points, which, if it's a 9th level spell, is 9 extra hit points, which can be the difference between life or death. Twice the spell's level is a spell slot. So if it was a 2nd level spell, it'd be 4 extra hit points at low levels, for example. So that's quite a nice one. And those are your 3 pathways that you've got. Like I said, I like them all. I'm just not sure about slide casting as a name. If that was 40k, you'd call it a quickening, because that is a specific psychic 40k power where you channel magical energy into your body to propel yourself faster. I think something along those lines would make a bit better sense than slide casting, because it doesn't really make any sense. As you level up, you get obviously the requisite ability boosts to things like weapon proficiencies. So you get expertise and specialization at 5th and 7th level, so you're getting pretty chunky with weapon damage and weapon attack rolls. Your proficiency goes up with alertness at 9th level. Expert spellcasters, so obviously all those kind of things on your spell DCs and everything become expert at 11th. Your medium armor expertise goes up at 11th as well. So again, you can see how there's weapon mastery. Your proficiency ranks for simple and martial weapons increase to master at 13th. You can see how you're getting a lot more oomph in terms of you're getting some of the magical standard class buffs. And then you're also getting the good combat ones as well as you're leveling up, which is quite good to see. Let's have a quick look. 1st level feats, give you a bit of vibe on these. Arcane Fists. This is kind of like diving into monk territory all over again. Your die damage for melee attacks is 1d6 instead of 1d4. So you can be like Kung Fu Magic Man. And then multi-class archetype into monk and go crazy. Most people take a -2 circumstance penalty when making a lethal attack with non-lethal unarmed attacks because they find it hard to use their fists with deadly force. You don't take this penalty. So yeah, you're basically just a punching machine that, can put magic into their body and smash people. Happy days. Combat assessment. You make a telegraphed attack to learn about your foe. Make a melee strike. On a hit, you can immediately attempt to check to recall knowledge. On a critical hit, you gain a +2 circumstance bonus. Eschew materials. You can use clever workarounds to replicate the arcane essence of certain materials. When casting a spell that requires material components, you can provide these material components without a spell component pouch. Essentially using more semantic components. Again, quite useful, and again, a classic caster class feat. You can have a familiar, raise a tome. You raise up the book you're holding and flip it open to defend yourself and expedite your studies. The book remains raised until the start of your next turn. While you have a book raised, yep, you know where this is going, you gain a +1 circumstance bonus to AC and to recall knowledge on a subject relevant to the book, such as arcane magic if you're using your spell book. If you're a master in the skill, you're using to recall knowledge, the circumstance bonus to recall knowledge is increased to +2 instead. A shield book, and I quite like the open-endedness of that. So if you've got a cookery book open, and you're planning on making a recall knowledge about how to make a flambé whilst fighting off an orc, you obviously get the inherent bonuses to your armor class and the knowledge checks to recall knowledge of how to make that flambé particular item whilst defending yourself from an orc. There you go. Well, you know, might have been a fallout in the kitchen. The orc sous chef has lost his shit and tried to kill you with a cleaver. Halfway through dinner service. Now that is a serious campaign. Get involved. Cantrip expansion at level 2. Again, you know, classic caster feat. Enhanced familiars. Spirit Sheath. That's a cool one. That's unique. We'll have a quick look at that. So effectively, it's like a extra dimensional sheath that you can conceal in an item or clothing, like a pocket, and you can essentially put a 1 bulk weapon in it, and it goes into this little pocket dimension, and then you can draw or return a weapon to a spirit sheath as an interact action, as can anyone holding the object. So if they put your trousers on, they've got access to your interdimensional pocket sheath. Who doesn't want one of those, by the way? Now, where's the bit? Right, when you cast a spell affected by striking spell, you can draw the weapon from the spirit sheath into your hands as part of the caster spell activity. So effectively, again, in combination with the striking spell, that's quick draw. Brilliant. Great level 2 feat. Highly recommend that one. Moving forward, we're going into 4th level. Bespell Strikes. You siphon spell energy into 1 weapon you're wielding until the end of your turn. The weapon deals an extra 1d6 damage, depending on the type and school the spell you cast is subject to. You can choose to put the spell energy into your body instead of a weapon, conferring the damage to your unarmed attacks. Again, you know, buffing in the free damage. That is a free action, 4th level feat, once per turn. And the requirement is your most recent action was to cast a non-cantrip spell. So you can focus spell it, or you can use one of your spell slots. Happy days. This extra d6 is if you're using abjuration magic. Wonderful word that, isn't it? Is force damage. Conjuration and transmutation. Same type as the weapon. Divination, enchantment, or illusion is mental damage for that d6. Evocation, a type the spell dealt, or force damage if the spell didn't deal damage. So if it was a fire evocation spell, it would be a d6 fire damage. And then necromancy, guess what? Negative damage. What a surprise. Spell parry, you're wielding only a single one-handed melee weapon and have your other hand or hands free. You can parry both physical and magical assaults. You gain a +1 circumstance bonus to AC and to saving throws against spells that target you until the start of your next turn, as long as you continue to meet the requirements. Boom, spell parry. So there's some cool, interesting and unique class options that you can see are flavouring out the spell sword magus kind of, you know, master of magic and master of blades quite nicely, even at like low levels, which I think is good. Spell countermeasures, this is a 6th level feat. There's martial caster, energize strikes, these are 6th level ones. Let's have a quick look at martial caster, that sounds interesting. Prerequisites, ability to cast 3rd level Magus spells. You can do that by 6th level, I'm 99% sure. It would be silly to have that as a prereq if you couldn't. You strengthen your spellcasting to power you in combat. You gain 2 1st level spell slots, but you can only prepare certain spells in them. So these are Fleet Step, Jump, Mage Armor, Magic Weapon, and True Strike. Who doesn't want a bit of True Strike? Always useful. And these are that is 2 extra 1st level feats. 1st level spells. So you can see how with the right builds you can really start to kind of expand on this. And True Strike will never not be useful. Now, let's have a quick look. Automatically add these spells to your spell book. Happy days. When you cast 4th level mega spells, the extra slots increase to 2nd level. Ooh, we're growing our ability to cast. Add the spells Resist Energy, Spider Climb, and Water Breathing. Flexibility, always useful. When you can cast 5th level spells, the extra slots increase to 3rd level, and you add the spells Feet to Fins and Haste. You can cast 6th level spells, the slots increase to 4th level, and you add Fly and Freedom of Movement. Brilliant. Proper useful, that 6th level spell. Big buff to your spell casting. Very good. 8th level Capture spell as a reaction. Comet spell as a free action as a 10th level feat. Standby spell, Runic Impression, Spell Swipe. 10th level free action feat called Portal Slide. Slide casting Magus Synthesis is a prereq, not surprising based on that name. You begin casting a spell altered by striking spell from a spell slot. You can rapidly make a portal to step through as you store a spell. Rather than striding or stepping as part of your cast a spell activity, you teleport half your speed to a clear space. You can see this doesn't trigger reactions. This would bring another if this would bring another creature with you, the spell is lost, so you can't use it to escape a grapple, which is a shame. If this would bring another creature with you, the spell is lost. If the spell you cast is of the Conjuration or Transmutation school, double the maximum distance you can teleport. Who doesn't want to bit of the old teleport around the battlefield and annoy the GM by suddenly being like, I'm over here, no, I'm over here, no, I'm over here. Where am I next? No one knows. Oh, I'm over here. Quicken spell strike, another level 10 feat you can pick. There's a lot, isn't there? And I'm only kind of name shouting a few of them. Preternatural parry, reaction feat, 14th level. This sounds juicy. Prerequisites: you have to have taken the spell parry feat from earlier. You're targeted by a strike or a spell attack roll, or you're about to roll a saving throw against a spell effect. So anything and everything anyone's going to try and hurt you with. Happy days. Requirements: you're wielding only a single one-handed melee weapon, and you have your other hand or hands free, because you might have 3 arms. Who knows? Stranger things have happened. I love it when they put those little caveats in. It's always funny. You snap your blade into place to ward off harm at the last second. You gain a +2 circumstance bonus to AC and saving throws against triggering effect until the start of your next turn. That's a bit... I want a bit more than that. Because I'm pretty sure we already talked about when we got +1 earlier, and that's a lot for 14th level. Dispelling spell strikes, overwhelming spell strikes. We're getting up into kind of 16th, 18th level now. Second chance strike, versatile spell strike, and then we're back into whirlwind spell and supreme spell strike at level 20. Supreme spell strike, 20th level feat. You've made it almost effortless to cast striking spells. You're permanently quickened. You can use your extra action only to strike with the unarmed attack or weapon storing a spell from the striking spell. That's an extra action. So you're at 20th level a 4 action a turn character, if you chose that feat for the purposes of boshing people in combat. That's pretty cool, like that. So yeah, very cool stuff in there, very cool stuff. And then obviously we move on to Summoner, which is going to be another video, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, so my initial thoughts on Magus is that overall it's a very, very, very cool concept. Always has been. Spell swords are cool. Who doesn't want to be someone that can fight in battle and also fire off spells? And there are ways of doing that. You could multi-class as a wizard, or you could multi-class as a fighter. But even if you use multi-classing, or the archetype systems, I should say, as it is now, you're never going to get as much oomph out of one or the other. One is always going to be quite far behind, whereas this does a much better job of pulling both back a little bit and keeping them fairly level, and then obviously allowing you to kind of choose where you focus and specialise on based on the feats you pick. So there is definitely a good solid gap that this class drops into very nicely. Again, I think the Magus from Pathfinder 1 was a good, solid class. You couldn't knock it. And I think this is falling into that same kind of role. So I think it'll be interesting to see what the feedback is and what changes they're going to make. But like I said, for a beta test class, which is what this is playtest, this isn't finished product, it's a really good, solid start. And even if you were to continue using these rules and carry on using this class in your core games, as if it was the finished article, I can't see you running into any significant problems. I really can't. It doesn't feel that it's overpowered. I do think that the striking spell mechanics are a little bit clunky, but it's something they're trying to kind of work on and refine, and this is where they've got it to right now. For example, when you're talking about the striking spell special effects, you have this kind of guide to how you should use certain spells that do different things. So if they target multiple people, or if they strike an invalid target, there's all these little things. So there's a bit of reading to do. But again, although they're not in the advanced player's guide, these are geared up to be more advanced classes, more, complicated. And if I'm honest with you, it's not really any more complicated than playing a sorcerer or a wizard. So it's just a little different. So definitely get on the playtest, drop it into your game, even if you literally just take one of your characters at the table and have them be like, oh, I'm going on holiday, chaps. I'll see you in a week's time, and then have someone, at the table sideline a character for a few sessions because they're excited about Magus or Summoner, slap them into your game, run a handful of sessions, and then give them the feedback that they ask for at the start of the playtest, because the more information as a community we can give Paizo, the better they can refine the finished articles of these classes, which is good for all of us. So get involved. Don't sit on the sidelines. Playtest. That is the end of the video. Drop me a like, drop me a subscribe. Don't forget, the Summoner video is coming out hopefully tomorrow, as I've got time to do it tomorrow, and that's the general plan of attack. So I'll catch you on the next video tomorrow, and we'll talk about the Summoner. Ooh, mysterious. Peace out. Take care.